Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm a bit red-faced. I had a long walk this morning. It's been very sunny here down in Kent and I've spent half the morning outside sitting in the sun, lazing around. But it's now time for the next video. This video is a gear video. It's about some pieces of kit I bought recently and it's particularly aimed at Mr. Dave Griffiths in Anglesey. Because he has the same vlogging camera that I have, which is the little Sony RX100 Mark7. In this case it's fitted with a small rig cage so that I can mount the microphone and the remote for the microphone and everything on it. He wants to know the gimbal that I've just bought because I think he probably wants to have a gimbal to smooth out some of his b-roll on his vlogs as well. So I'm going to do this as a gear video and detail how all this fits together. So this is the gimbal. It comes in a nice sort of rubberized plasticky sort of container which keeps it safe. I haven't packed everything in there fully, but it's a tight fit. Let's get that out of the way. It's got a USB cable, hand strap, arm strap. It has a metal plate for mounting on one or more different cameras. I've modified this to reduce the weight and make it quicker to get the camera on and off by cutting the lower part that used to be there off it, which you don't need to do, but I just found it easier to balance the camera on the gimbal with that missing. So let's get to it and have a look. We need a battery in this camera, otherwise the weight will be different. So if I put a fully charged battery in here, hopefully it'll all power up as normal. Yep, it is doing. Power down normally. Go on, I'll press the button, that was a bit slow. Anyway, you can mount the camera directly onto the plate without the small rig enclosure on it, obviously, but I have the small rig and Dave has the small rig as well. And this little dovetailed piece slots into the arm, which I'll show you in a second. And basically, this sits on the bottom the right way up. I'll get it the right way up. On the bottom of, in this case, the small rig actual frame, video frame, and you just tighten it up with that little thumb wheel there, nice and tight. And then you've got the mounting part directly on the end here. Now, put that there for a second. The gimbal comes all fully locked together, and you can hear it rattling because there's a little lock here and it's rattling side to side. If I undo that, the whole top can spin round freely, so it's fully capable of rotating 360 and more. Some gimbals only go round to about 350, but this one doesn't. And to unlock it, there's this little red locking tab. There's several little there's several locking tabs on here. There's one here that sets the distance backwards and forwards that the main first motor has from the axis of the gimbal itself. I don't need to alter that because that's set for the camera. Ordinarily you just undo these little cinching screws. The other two, one is the lock plate fastening screw which sits under here. That's where the little lock plate under the camera sits here, like so. This one allows this whole plate to move up and down on the second motor, this being the second motor, and at the moment it's all locked together because there's a tiny little pin in here which is pushed upwards from the handle through, you'll see, I'll show you in a second. I have to undo this red one, this is the main one, and as soon as I lift that up everything becomes free, and there's a tiny little locking thing here which I've set to balance my camera. This is exactly the point when the camera's mounted, the whole thing balances up properly and everything sits nice and flat. So if I tighten the red locking key, obviously with no camera in, it's a bit floppy and just generally unbalanced. So the next trick is to take camera, take little dovetail at the bottom and slide it straight into here. There's a little silver locking button on the back which you need to press, and that has to be loose, and that slides in there like that, and then we just tighten it up like so. So back in a second. Okay, where was I? Ah yes, mounting the camera. The camera is now mounted on the gimbal, and basically it looks a bit floppy. It's dangling down to the left hand end here, which means that end's too heavy. So I need to balance it a bit better. I said I'd set that little point, but I set it in the wrong place. So I just slide that a fraction through there, and when we get to the point that it sits naturally, no, it needs to go the other way. I'm being stupid. Alright, let's try that. Ah, that's it. Right, so that's nicely balanced this way, and it's not nicely balanced that way. And the reason is the lens isn't out. So the moment I power it up and the front lens comes out, magically it's sitting pretty horizontal, so that's ready to go. The idea of getting it well balanced is that the more out of balance it is, the more the motors work very hard, which burns the electric up quicker, which means the charge that it's got will last long or less long. I've had this lose 25% of battery after having it running for about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's got a fairly good battery life on it. And this particular model, there is a tiny USB port here on the back of the motor. It's not part of the camera, this is part of the gimbal. And that, with a special cable you can buy from the company that make this, plugs straight into the USB port on the side of the RX100, which means the power that's in the handle, which is a lot from what I've seen, can be used to charge or power up the camera itself. I've got a cable coming, it hasn't arrived yet, probably a few days it'll arrive, which will mean I don't have to worry about the pathetic battery life that the RX100 has when in video mode. I should be able to vlog for as long as I want. So that's pretty much what it does, except it wasn't turned on. So if I now power it up, hold the power switch up, then the little screen lights up and shows me a bunch of factors. And now, as you can see, the camera isn't moving. It's completely stationary in space relatively. There are 3 different modes I can set it on. One is POV. Basically, how I move the handle, the camera smoothly tracks the motion. So if I want it to point down, I can make it point down like this and so on. If I want it to turn left, I can turn the camera body left or the gimbal body left and right and so on. So it makes for nice smooth panning when you're actually taking shots. The next mode is PF mode, whatever that stands for. And basically it's pretty much the same thing, except the camera doesn't rotate up and down when I move the handle, but it does turn left and right. That's the only motion it will have, but it doesn't move up and down unless I control it with the little thumb wheel here. So I can alter the point the camera's pointing at, but from the point I've set it, it'll stay there, except obviously it'll swing left and right. So that's the second mode, and the last mode is an L mode, and the L mode allows me to basically control the camera completely from the joystick in every direction. So I can create horrible video effects that make people feel ill because they're being made to spin around at high speed and other such things. But basically this whole gimbal is a really nice piece of kit. I paid 150 for this second hand. I think brand new they're about 180. It does have a little screw-in tripod foot which you can put on there, which allows you to obviously let go of it and pop it down like so, and whatever the camera's doing I can still use it for. And that also acts as a useful extension, so you can hold it a bit further away from yourself. If you press the button, the trigger at the front 3 times, and it's in POV mode or PF mode, 1, 2, 3, it goes into selfie mode. It automatically turns to 180 degrees vertically and points straight at you. It doesn't follow you. You have to obviously use the little screen on the back of the camera to make frame yourself up. But given if you're looking straight at the lens is looking straight at you, it's a pretty safe bet to say you're in the centre of the frame, pretty much. So you can use it like that, and if 3 more presses on there and it swings back round to forward-facing mode. And it's as simple as that. It does a whole bunch of other things which I haven't played with yet. It can actually do time-lapse movement, so you could do a time-lapse panorama. You can do angles, you can do any angle, you can program it to do that sort of thing. I seem to be a funny colour on that screen. Anyway, we will wait and see. Now, it's also got a 1/4 inch tripod thread mounting on the side here, so you can actually fit anything you want there. Typically what you might put there is it comes with a little mobile phone holder, and you could, with use of a small screw, put that in here and have your mobile phone working. The thing I forgot to mention is this is Wi-Fi connected to the Sony. I don't know why that keeps going off. I'll just change the angle of this camera. I think it's picking up on the wrong thing there. Okay, that's a bit better. Now I just look red. So yes, this can completely control the camera without any wires involved or anything, because it literally is wirelessly connected. So if I press the start record button, lo and behold, start record has appeared on the back of the Sony, or the record is mode. Turn it off, stops recording. The M button's the mode button, as I've discussed. I haven't quite worked out how to make it take a single photograph yet. I know it can do it, but I haven't actually got that to work. And on the side there's a zoom button again, which wirelessly alters the amount of zoom the lens has got. Hopefully it will. Yes, it's zooming now. The lens, you can see, is extending. It does it in a cinematic way, which means it's slower than the controls on the camera would normally make it. The idea behind that is it makes the quality of the video that much smoother and therefore that much more watchable. Hopefully that much more watchable. It doesn't alter the idiot in front of the camera that no one wants to watch, of course, but that's the little gimbal, and I'm really quite pleased with that. I think that is money well spent from my point of view. And one of the nice features is you can actually, well, go right down to floor level and hold it skimming through flowers and pieces of undergrowth and such things, and you can then just raise it up and above things to expose objects in the distance, and you're completely aware that the lens on the camera is pointing in the direction you want it to. So that is the little gimbal, and that is quite a nice piece of kit. I'm pleased with that. I'm not pleased with the fact I got a tiny scratch on the lens. I think it must have been when it fell off the gate post the other day in the wind. I didn't see it at the time, but it has. And for the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice my remote receiver for my Rode fluffy lapel thing, transmitter, is connected onto the video cage, the small rig video cage, and then I've used some tiny computer cable ties and cable tied the curly cable up into the camera, and if we spin it round far enough, it's plugged in there, so when I'm recording I don't need any wires because it's all wireless. This setup is really nice. I can quite quickly power it down, turn it off, never let go of it when it's turned on because it'll spin out of control, and there, that's fine. Undo that little red gizmo there, turn it all round so that it all lines up, and as I mentioned earlier, there are some tiny grooves. I don't know, can I get those to be visible? Tiny grooves here, and those grooves line up with some tiny grooves on the bottom of this part. So if you move it all into this position and then pull it down like so, like that, and then lock that off, and then flick the little red switch at the front, that is all locked together and ready to be put in your bag. In my case, I have these little connectors that go onto my Peak Designs shoulder strap, and I just clip that in there, and that can hang on my shoulder or just off my shoulder around here. It's no inconvenience to have it, it's not particularly heavy, and it's there ready for when I want to use it. Or conversely, if you've got deep pockets, that will actually fit quite happily in a decent coat's pocket, which sometimes I put it in there instead, but I tend to use the shoulder strap for it. So that is it, that is the toy, that is all there is to it. So for anyone interested in vlogging gear, this is what I'm using. This works very well for me, so I hope you enjoyed that. I know it's a bit of a boring technically sort of thing, but it's certainly from Dave's point of view, he's quite interested to see this, so there it is, done. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and please also subscribe so that you get notified when I upload new videos.